What is going on, my broskiis? My name is Toadski, back again, here to bring you guys yet another One Piece Treasure Cruise video. So if you've been keeping up to date with my YouTube community tab or the posts on my social media, you guys would be, staying up to date with this, which is the OPTC grid. So we already made a dedicated video discussing people's opinions on these specific tags, topics, on the strength type characters. If you guys want to go ahead and check out that video, hopefully I'll remember to put the link at the top of the video here so you guys can go ahead and check out that video to see my overall opinions on this. So now we're going to do the exact same thing for the DEX typing, and I don't think it's much of a surprise for veterans of One Piece Treasure Cruise to understand the fact that the most beloved DEX character, it was pretty unanimous, the DEX Kaido was going to be that guy. For those of you who don't know or weren't around when this guy first came out, this was like the most broken legend of all time. This character is so absurd. The crazy thing about DEX Kaido was, we didn't have normal attacks only when he first came out. So essentially you could run double Kaido and you get this ability. So he gives 2 turns of cooldown to Striker and Powerhouse, which he definitely needed. And then at the start of the fight, the 2 turns at the start of the fight, and then you get the Striker Powerhouse 4 times attack, which at the time, 4 times attack was like pretty stock standard, 1.25 times HP, and then the really cool ability of dealing 400 times his attack and dex damage to all enemies at the end of every turn. And then it says at the start of the fight, you activate your own special. The special itself will give you a 400 times attack and dex damage to all enemies at the end of the turn for 99 turns. So with double Kaido, you get 2 hits of 400 times his attack as end of turn damage, and then only one of the Kaidos can get their abilities to activate, but it would give you a 3rd hit of 400 times his attack. So you're essentially getting 3 massive hits of 400 times his attack. Let's just pull up his HP, his attack value, right? So it's let's pull up a limit break version, and then he had 1856. So with 200 cotton candy on release, it was 2056 times 400. So he does this much damage at the end of every single turn. Multiply it by 3, so he did 2.4 million damage at the end of every single turn. On top of the fact that his special ability would also do a 20% health cut of all enemies as soon as you enter a stage. So you're automatically cutting their health by 20%. You can activate his special when you get to the boss fight, and then you get another 20% health cut. Like, this is just how crazy it was. Getting all of these health cuts and then doing this much end of turn damage means you don't actually have to do that much damage at all to the boss when you actually reach them. Remember, normal attacks only wasn't really a thing. The only real thing that could be a problem is if an enemy had a barrier, because that would obviously stop these health cuts from working. But if you break the barrier with your normal attacks, and then at the end of the turn, the end of turn damage would still activate. It was just absurd. You could run double Kaido with whatever you want, basically, and you would just win. It's so OP. It was the best thing to farm content with. It was absurd. So DEX Kaido, I think, deservedly getting this #1 spot. For those of you who are more newer to the game, probably wouldn't comprehend how good this actually was, because obviously normal attacks only is basically on every content now, so we don't really get to fully abuse this effect anymore. But still, this guy, he doesn't have a 6+ yet, so a lot of people are excited for a potential 6+ for this guy in the future, which could hopefully make him more usable. We'll have to wait and see. So that was definitely exciting to see that DEX Kaido got the #1 spot. I think definitely deserved for sure. So next we're going to move on to the mostly well-liked characters. So hopefully people know for this tier, it's not just whatever second place was for this. This is talking about a character that most people like, and then there's potentially a small group of people that don't like them that much. Although I feel like for this unit, this is a unit that pretty much everyone likes, which is DEX Hioriori. Hioriori, it was funny because when she first came out, not really too many people were that excited for this unit, but as time had progressed, this character's usefulness really shone. So Hioriori, another good thing about this unit too, is that Hioriori gets access to some pretty good support effects, which really helps her out on running her on random teams. She's also got a good class and type combo, being Dex Cerebral Slasher. That's honestly pretty good. And then for her captain ability, it's pretty bad. No one's using her for her captain ability. Same thing for her super type, because you can only use it as a captain. The real value comes into the special and also the crewmate abilities. Changing all slots into Wano at the start of the fight. This character I use literally on every single treasure map ever, because having this ability to get a full board of Wano slots, You wave clear the first 2 stages. When you reach the final stage, you still have your full board of Wano slots. They cannot be manipulated by the enemy's abilities, and that is extremely powerful. Not only that, Wano slots give you more damage, so, you know, you can't really say no to that. And then when this character taps with the Wano slot, you also get some resistance down for Slasher and Cerebral, and predominantly I would use this character as a crewmate with Cat Viper Dogstorm, who are slashers, so you get just additional damage for those units. But then you also get some value from the special, which gives you, again, a full board of Wano slots, lock them for 1 turn, and you get 7 turns of Bind, Despair, and Chain Removal, as well as a really good heal. This character is used in so many different teams, really good in a lot of content. You can use her in short form content or long form content. She's going to be a character that will see consecutive play, honestly, forever. She doesn't have a 6+ yet, so she could get even better in the future, which is crazy to think about. So I think DEX Hioriori, definitely a character that I think most people love. I don't really see there being many people that would not like this unit, because this unit doesn't... I guess people may not like her because of her captain ability. I could understand that, I guess, but her other abilities are so powerful and so useful, I just don't see how this character is not really considered a well-liked character. Now we get to some controversial stuff. So a character, obviously, that causes a lot of stir in the community, a character that may have people that like them or people that don't like them. And it's interesting because while I do think this next character is controversial, I could also see it literally just being in mostly disliked or even despised, because I know that more people don't like them than actually do like them. And that character is the brand newly released Monkey D. Dragon, Ivankov, and Kuma. And obviously this character is very polarizing because it's Monkey D. Dragon's first Sugofest exclusive in One Piece Treasure Cruise, so we were all hyped for this. We couldn't believe that it was actually happening. But they ended up releasing it on a random, like, was it a Kizuna or a treasure map? I didn't even remember at this point. It was a Kizuna, I'm pretty sure. And not only that, is that the character's abilities were, like, just okay. Has the ability to bypass defensive effects, which is definitely cool in the captain ability. But then you only really get that if you have 5 or more Revolutionary Army characters on your team, and the main issue is that he's only a Cerebral captain, so it has to be a Cerebral unit that is also a Rev Army tag character, and the amount of those units that we have that are actually usable is very minimal. So basically you need to have all of the Rev Army characters pulled on your account to actually make this character useful. And even if you run this full team with Rev Armies, you have everything going for you, the character is just okay. Like, there's some interesting abilities where you can get, like, the self-proccing conditional boost. You get some interesting cooldown. You can remove defensive effects, even though his his captain ability allows you to bypass them anyway, so that effect is a little strange. But he has the ability to captain swap, which is interesting. And then he does allow you to get double stacking conditional boost, which is good. But he's just a really wonky character because he's very difficult to use. And the fact that, like, I think the most disappointing fact is that this is Dragon's debut in Treasure Cruise, and for him to debut as a character like this, I think most people were really disappointed. A lot of people love Dragon. People would love to have seen him as a Super Sugofest exclusive. Unfortunately, it just didn't happen. I mean, it does open the door for him to come out more in the future as another Super Sugofest exclusive, which I think people would be hella excited for. But we hope that it's just going to be something a little better than what we saw with his initial release. Let's hope anyway. Now, the next one was interesting because one thing I was kind of wondering is how we were going to tackle a tie. And now that this has since happened, from now on, we are not going to do ties. I'll do some kind of tiebreaker if it comes down to it. But this next one was a tie between 2 characters, one of which I agree with, one of which I don't think should have been on here, but let's go ahead and have a look at it. It was a tie between 2 units being Basil Hawkins and Green Ball. Now, the character that I definitely agree with being here is Basil Hawkins. I think Basil Hawkins mostly is a character that a lot of people just don't like at all. I think that there are some people out there that do like using him for sure. I guess the same thing could be said for like V1 Brook with his revive mechanic. I'm not a big fan of the V1 Brook. I understand that he does have his place and he is a useful unit to own. but with Hawkins, I don't think it's on the same level as Brook. Hawkins has some cool abilities going on for sure, but he's just a really poorly designed unit, and I think most people just don't like him. Having a very stally defensive kind of captain effect in today's day and age is really bad. Even when he first came out, his abilities weren't that great, and his special ability is supposed to supplement the fact that he doesn't do much damage with his captain effect, with tap timing bonus damage and all of those other things. But the fact is that tap timing bonus damage gets negated from normal attacks only, which doesn't really help you. And he wants to tank as much damage as possible to make his special do more damage, and that just doesn't help you in today's day and age. He does have the ability to change enemies into quick type for one turn, but the issue with that is that it doesn't go through immunity, and it doesn't change super type bosses. So there's obviously a little bit of a hurdle to get over there. There's just not a lot to love about this unit. Even like the super special is fine. It's just a really good tank. That's basically it. There's just not a lot to like about Basil Hawkins. I totally agree with him being here. However, Green Bull is also listed here as well, which I was genuinely surprised at. Like, I agree with the fact that Green Bull is a pretty poorly designed unit, but he's not unusable, especially with the introduction of the tag mechanic. Characters like 11th Anniversary Kizaru has really like kind of breathed some life into this guy. So this guy being a Dex striker and powerhouse, his captain ability is pretty bad. We can agree with that. You need to have like one of every type to make all of his abilities work properly. But the fact is you can use him as a sub on like Dex teams, and it's actually pretty good. You got some okay utility. It's not great. He does do some damage. He gives you a full board of Dex orbs, and then if you have an orb boost, he can increase the duration of it, and also orb multiplier buffs, which is interesting. And then orb effects of Dex characters 2.75 for 2 turns. And then if it's not a Dex character, it's still an orb boost for all characters, but if it's a Dex unit, they get a slightly higher orb boost. And increase the effects of beneficial Dex slots to 2.5 times. So it makes Dex slots as valuable as a Wanner slot when you launch his special ability, which he gives you a full board of Dex slots, which is pretty good. So yeah, I definitely agree with the fact that he's not great, but I think that he's better than Hawkins. I've definitely used this guy way more than Basil Hawkins on my account. So that's just my opinion, but hey, it's a community decision, not mine, right? So that's the breakdown of the mostly disliked. Now, the universally despised was a pretty clear cut. There is one legend that has come out in Treasure Cruise as a Dex unit, and ever since the characters came out, the character has been bad. There hasn't really been a use for this unit. And then even with the introduction of a 6+ and the introduction of level limit break, character is still bad. We thought that with the level limit break it was going to make them usable, but unfortunately it just didn't. And that's V2 Jimbe. This character is absolutely trash. It's really, really bad. So like captain ability is like you need to have a strength dex and strength dex and psi unit on your crew to get the buffs, which is similar to like how Lucy was designed, but it's just the rest of his abilities are not good enough to hold up. At the start of stage 3 and stage 5 change the left column slots into Dex, Strength, and Psi, and then orbs on the right column into Recovery, Int, and Quick. So when you reach stage 3 and stage 5, he gives you a very set specific slots, which means when you then activate his special ability, you get like the benefits of having one of every type of orb on your team. And that was what he kind of needed. You needed all of these different types of slots to make him work, and it's just not something that is actually usable. It's just not really worth the time. He does have some pretty powerful abilities here. Locks the chain at 3.75. That's a pretty good chain lock, but you need to have, again, one of every color orb on your team for that to work. Like, sure, you're not really going to use him as a captain anyway, because like the damage is a lot lower than characters really get these days. Reduce slot bind, attack boost for 3 turns, make all these slots beneficial. Like, he just doesn't do enough. He really doesn't. He doesn't have a support effect. He doesn't have good rumble stuff. There's just nothing likable about Dex Jimbe at all. So yeah, Dex Jimbe being the universally despised, I'm completely okay with. Honestly, all of these characters are pretty bad in Rumble, I guess, aside from Dragon. I think Dragon does have some use case, but the rest of them are all pretty terrible in Rumble. But that's the breakdown of all of the Dex characters that have been selected in the OPTC grid. Let me know your thoughts and opinions about this one. Do you agree with the OPTC grid and the community? Hopefully you guys enjoyed this video though. If you did, make sure to go ahead and leave a like, and if you want to stay up to date with all the content I post, including more One Piece Treasure Cruise content, make sure to hit the subscribe button down below. Other than that, guys, I'll see you guys within the next video.